All right, this is going to be a testimony video. I forget really so much of my walk um, until I'm asked about it, and then um, when I think back about it, really, I've been kind of like thinking about you know my life and how I ended up here, and um, I had forgotten so many pieces of it until I was really like focusing on it and thinking about it. So um, I'm gonna give like the main points, I guess, um, of what happened, and specifically the part that I was asked about a couple weeks ago, and like me kind of coming into covenant. So I was in and out of church as a kid. Like looking back, I can see that I was always looking for God, right? Like other people would go to church and I'd be really interested, and then I would go for a little while and I was like, this isn't just I'm not interested in this. But then I was always still kind of thinking about him in the back of my mind. Um my parents and most of the people that I knew growing up, went to if we went to church, it was a Catholic church. And so when I was interested in going, I went to a Catholic church. I went to CCD for a couple of years. And then I was like, no, I'm not interested. And then in high school, I met a group of girls who were going to the Catholic youth group. And I was interested. And I did that for a few years. I got very involved in the church and was reading my Bible, and I might have been the only Catholic in the church that actually did read the Bible, honestly. Um, but I walked in one day and I looked around the church. It was this huge, very ornate building. And I'm standing in there. I was alone in the church and I was looking around and I'm like, what a bunch of hypocrisy and greed, and just it just kind of hit me all at once of like really how bad it was. And so I walked out, and and that was it. I just didn't go back. I was like, I think um I think I was like 22 at the time, and I just left, and that was it. um the problem came like where I messed up at that point was because I was still reading the Bible for a little while, but then I questioned the virgin birth, the miracles that happened around our Messiah. And when you start to question the miracles, everything else kind of falls apart, because my thought was like, you can't have a virgin birth because science. Right? So it was like, it just can't happen. And if the miracles can't happen, if God can't do miracles, then um the Bible falls apart, because so many of the stories are the miracles that he's done. um and so I put the Bible down for, let's see, 22 to 37 or so. Um, so, a good, 15 years. Um, I picked it back up in 2020 because it was COVID time, and I was agnostic. That whole time of my life, that those 15 years, I knew that there was a God, but I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what to call him. I didn't know what holy text was the right ones. I just didn't know, and so I just got very consumed with the world, and lived my life. Um, when COVID hit, it was like life was tumultuous for a long time. Like God was really chastising me. Looking back, I can see all of it, how it was. The point of it was like my life would be good for a while, and then it would completely shatter and crumble, and I'd have to rebuild from scratch. And that happened multiple times. And so one of these times, what happened to be during COVID, and I was like kind of at my wit's end. It was hard to be a mom during COVID and like figuring out childcare and working, and I was able to be home with my kids for a little while, for like a year actually. I was able to be home with them, and we were homeschooling. But I had to go back to work. Like money was running out, and so I'm standing in my kitchen and was praying, but I didn't mean to be praying really. But I was like, what am I gonna do now? Like I asked that question specifically because I was like, what am I gonna do? You know? And I'll never forget, I heard his voice over my right shoulder. And he said, you better get yourself back to church. And that doesn't happen to me. Like, I don't hear like voices in my head, you know? So when I heard that, I was like, okay. So I went to the bookshelf, and I happened to have a Bible on my bookshelf because I had moved right before COVID hit, February of 2020. I moved, but I moved into a smaller house, and I didn't have enough room in the house to have the bookshelves for all the books I had. So I spent one night when I was unpacking going through the books, deciding which ones were going to go to the storage and which ones were going to stay in the house. And the Bible, it went in the box to go to storage, and then I'm like, well, no, I'll put it back on the shelf. And then I was like, I'm probably not going to read it. I'll send it to storage. And then I put it back on the shelf because it was one of those things where I was like, I kind of just want to read the Bible as like a novel, just to like read through it, you know? But so I had this night of on the shelf, off the shelf, on the shelf, off the shelf. And it ended up staying on the shelf. Now I know why, you know, because I was going to need to have it that night that I said, what am I going to do now? And so that was one of the things that after the fact I could look back on. There was a string of miracles that happened, like actual miracles that God did for me. And that was like the first one when I realized I needed to have that Bible on my shelf for that night that I said, what am I going to do now? So that I could hear his voice and go to the bookshelf and open it. When I opened it to read it, I was drawn to Revelation. And I just knew, like, this is it. This is where we are. Like, this is real. I couldn't understand Revelation, but I just knew. And so I just kept reading it over and over and over again. And then I started reading, you know, through the rest of the Bible. My kids started reading it with me, and we started looking for a church. We kind of bounced around from church to church. We were talking about it the other day. I think we went to 6 churches that I can remember in about 3 years. That's quite a number of churches in a short amount of time. So it hit me a couple of weeks ago, like as I've been meditating on my testimony and on this walk that I've had with God. He showed me like very specific miracles. And now I understand it was because I questioned them. It was because I questioned his miracle of the virgin birth. That he, like, to build my faith. And I was so grateful in the moment when it hit me that he did this for me. He showed me miracles that were specific to me in the moment, so that I would know that he was here, that he does do miracles, that he still will do them. And there's so many, like, now that I can actually read the Bible and understand it, there's so many miracles that are coming that he's going to do to show everybody who he is. And it's just amazing. So a couple of the ones that he did for me, there's 3 that I think about all the time that stick out to me. One is I was sitting on my front porch, or my front steps, and it had been kind of a rainy day, like on and off raining, and the rainstorm had passed, so it was like off to the right, and it was not raining over me. It was blue skies. And so I was sitting out on the front porch, and I'm like, God, I just kind of want to know that you're here. And I'm looking around for a rainbow, because I know, I'm like, if you're here, could you just show me a rainbow? And as I finished saying that prayer, I kid you not, one raindrop, bing, right in the middle of my forehead. And it made me laugh, because I was like, okay, like, it wasn't raining on me. And I said, can I just see you? Can you just tell me that you're here? And he gives me one raindrop right smack in the middle of my forehead. And it was like, it was one of those moments where you're like, oh shit, like, that really just happened. Like, wow, I love that miracle. That was I think about that all the time. Like, he is really right here with us. Another one that he did was, I had been sitting on those same steps, and I lived on the 2nd floor, and my landlord downstairs, her daughter would come and go to do laundry in the basement. So when I would come out the front door, I would leave the door unlocked, obviously, and just go sit on the steps for a little while. The daughter came by. She opened the garage, went in the garage with her laundry, and closed the door behind her. And then when she came out the front door and closed the door behind her. We chatted for a second, and then she drove off. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, I really hope she didn't lock that door. So I turned around and went to the door, and it was locked. And just to double check, I walked around to the garage, and the garage doors were closed. I didn't have my phone. It was dark in the house downstairs, so my landlord wasn't awake. I didn't have my keys, and I was like, oh boy, now what? How am I going to get in the house? And I wasn't panicking yet, but I was just kind of thinking about it like, yep, this is happening. And as I'm standing there, the garage door opened. There's nobody around. I looked down the street to see if maybe the daughter had come back. No, there's no cars on the street. I looked inside the garage to see if maybe my landlord was there, because she realized I'd gotten locked out. Nope, she's not there. The house is dark. There's nobody. None of the neighbors are around. It's just me and this now open garage door. And I just stood there and stared at it for a minute of like, you can't be serious. Like, there's no way to explain that other than God opened my garage door for me. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like, thank you. And holy moly. Because that's crazy, right? Like, he just opened the door for me. Because that's what he does. Because he will perform these crazy cool miracles to show you, like he was showing me, like, hey, I'm here, I'm with you, I'm gonna take care of you, I'm not gonna let you be stranded. So that was a really cool one. I think about that one a lot too. The third one that he did for me was, I had been driving and didn't have money on me, and I didn't have gas in the car. But I had to drive, and I kind of just ended up in this situation where I was like, crap, Like, I have to drive, it was like 30 miles. And I had like, I scrounged up some change from my car, but it was like less than $2, and it was definitely, I was like, this is going to be a close one. If it makes it, I'm probably going to have to I'm going to stall. I'm going to have to call AAA. I don't know what I'm going to do. I was just like, I'm just going to drive as far as I can and I'll see how it goes. And I'm watching the gas gauge as I'm driving, and it doesn't move. And I go a few more miles, it doesn't move. I go a few more miles, it doesn't move. I kid you not, I got all the way home on E. That gas gauge did not budge. It, the whole time, like the first half of the drive, I was like kind of in a panic because I was like, what am I going to do here? And then the last half of the drive, I was kind of like chuckling to myself because I was like I realized what God was doing in the moment, right? I realized as I was driving that he was just making it work, because there's no other way to explain it. Like, I've pushed that car like pretty far on gas, but never like that. Like, there was no way for that to have worked had God not been making the car just run. And so my point in saying that is, like, because I had questioned his miracles, when I came back to him to prove to me that he's true, to build my faith and my trust in him, he gave me miracles that I needed in that moment, so that I would know he's always gonna be there. He's always with us. He's always with me. He's always gonna take care of me. And I didn't need to worry about anything. And so as I'm going through my walk, right, I'm going from church to church to church, I'm reading the Bible, I'm realizing, like, the reason I went from church to church was because I would be reading the Bible, and there was most of it, 99% of it, that I just didn't understand. And I was very confused why I didn't understand it. Because I'm like, I can read, like, I should be able to understand this book. It's not like, but I couldn't make sense of it. But the little pieces that he did show me, that 1%, it always related to something that was going on in the church, that like the pastor would lie about something, and I'm like, well, I've read otherwise, like, those little nuggets that he did let me see always related back to be able to see the lie in the church that I was in at the time. So, for example, I went to one church and the pastor told me that David was actually a warrior, like a grown man, when he fought Goliath. And I'm like, but it says youth. Like, literally, David was a youth, it says. And so I'm like, yeah, he's just, like, that's just a blatant lie. I was like, I'm not. And so it was stuff like that. And every church was something like that. Or, like, one church was just all about, like, money, 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 money. The last church that I was in, the pastor's wife had been pricked to read the Bible cover to cover. And so we were doing this chronological read the Bible in a year study for the women. And we were in Leviticus, and I saw about tithing was part of the sacrificial law. And I was like, well, hang on a second. We're not supposed to be doing the sacrificial law. So what gives? I was like, I'm going to immediately stop tithing because I'm not supposed to be tithing because it's that part of the law is done. So it was like stuff like that, like, always just backfired on the churches because they're just so hypocritical and full of lies that you just, I just couldn't even stay in churches, like, knowing all of the lies, the little bit that I could see in the Bible. and then hearing the church lie and twist it, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But this whole time, like, I still, like, I can always remember his voice telling me I better get back to church. So I was like, well, he told me to go to church. So, like, why can't I find the right one? Like why are they all so crappy if he's telling me to go to church, right? So I just kept going. I just kept searching. I just kept looking for the answers, right? Looking for the truth. During this time, I was looking for a job at one point because I had been a social worker, and then COVID hit, and then I started reading the Bible, and my values just were completely skewed from the way social work agencies run, and so I had to leave that job. I left the field, and so I was looking for a job where I could still do what I loved, which is working with kids and working with families, but have it be aligned with Bible, right? And so this job opened up for me to be a teacher of sorts in a high school class at this Baptist school. It wasn't like a traditional school where you like stand up in front of the class and you give a lecture, but it was like, I can't remember the name of the curriculum, but so the kids would all get a workbook, and it would teach them like all the text, everything they needed was in the workbook. And so they would read through the lesson, and then the teacher was there more of like a tutor to help if they got stumped on something or they needed more explanation or whatever. And so I was going to be the second teacher in this high school classroom. So it's like 13 to 17-year-old kids. And so I applied for the job in the winter time of, it would have been late 2023 or early 2024, that winter. I want to say, I can't remember. I want to say January. So I applied for this job. I go to, I do the interview process. He told me that he was going to give me the position, but then the way that the timing worked and like the kids' vacation schedules and with what I had going on at the time for work. And so what happened was I was going to go in like once a week and volunteer for, I can't remember, maybe it was like February and March. And then April, I was working a little bit more. By May, I was working more full time. And then we had the summer off, and I was going to go back in September as like really the full-time position, and be working. It was a Monday to Thursday school, so I'd be working Monday to Thursday. So I'm going through this process. I meet the kids. I start volunteering in the classroom. I really loved it. I like to teach kids. I like to work with kids, and like, especially that transition age of like getting into adulthood. That's my favorite age. And it's not hard to, I went through high school, so I was like, it's not like I can't do the subjects, so it was whatever. And in May, I had another like kind of side gig that I had to download TikTok for. And so I download TikTok in May, and I opened it up one day, and I ended up in this live. And I have to back up a little bit, because so God would, like, my life would be okay for a little while, and then it would crumble. And it would be okay for a little while, and then it would crumble. And so I was constantly having to just like rebuild my life. So in April, I had been married to this man, and it ended up that he had lied about a whole bunch of stuff. And so I was asking God for the truth, right? I was like, please show me like the truth. I don't want to live in lies. And this had been like, this wasn't the first time. Like this was the pattern of relationships that I had been in. And not to say that I was an angel by any means. Absolutely not. Like I messed up my fair share and then extra. But the men had always been like really bad liars. And so I would find out all of these lies and like my whole life would crumble. And I'm like, well, shit, like this, like, and so when this happened the last time, I was like, I can't take it anymore. I don't want to live in lies anymore. I just want to know the truth. I have to know the truth. So I ended up hearing this song about King David, and the artist was like, in his little monologue in the beginning, he said, the thing about King David is that when he messed up, because he messed up big time, when he messed up, he always ran to God. He didn't run from God. And that's why he had a heart that was after God. God said, this is a man after my own heart, right? And so this was the artist's interpretation of that, was because he always ran to God and repented, didn't turn from him. And so when I heard that song, I was like, oh, that's what I want, God. I want you to look at me like that. I want to be that one that runs to you when I mess up. And I want to have a heart that's for you. Now, I didn't know at the time what I was really praying for. But so all of this is happening at once. My life crumbles. My husband's a lying, just everything was a lie. I'm begging God for the truth. I'm praying for a heart like King David. And I have this new job at this high school where I'm like teaching kids through the Bible. And in May of 2024, I opened up TikTok and I ended up in this live, and the man said, you have to keep the Sabbath. You have to eat clean. And the Messiah's name is Yeshua, not Jesus. And I just stopped dead in my tracks. And I was like, what? Oh no, what did I do? Like, I just knew, when you hear the truth and you're like, it was like getting slapped in the face with a brick. And I was like, oh no. So I ended up researching. I went to the Bible. I was like, I got to see if this is true, right? I'm begging God for the truth. And now I hear it. And I'm like, I better check this out. So the Sabbath, it's clearly written. You got to keep the Sabbath. Okay, start doing that. Clearly written. You got to eat clean. Okay, start doing that. After a little while, I gained my courage, look for the name. Okay, the name is definitely not Jesus. It's Yeshua. I can see that. Okay, I'm still working at this Baptist school. And so I'm like researching, trying to find like, what are we supposed to keep, right? Because there's clearly something is finished. Clearly there's something nailed to the cross. But clearly we can't be lawless. We have to like at least keep the 10 commandments. What parts of the other law were sacrificial law? What parts of it are we supposed to wear tzitzits? Are we supposed to separate somehow when we're having our monthly? Are we like, what were other things that I was kind of going through? The feast. Are we supposed to do the feast? Are we supposed to do some sort of sacrifice? Like, these were conversations that I was having with other women, and like searching the scriptures of like, okay, what really is finished and what are we supposed to keep? And all the while, I'm going to work at this Baptist church. So I guess a lot of that was done over the summer, right? So I wasn't like in school every day. And then we go back in September. And by September, I was like, okay, I think we're supposed to wear tzitzits. So I'm wearing tzitzits, and I've gotten rid of all my crosses by now, because I'm like, okay, the cross is a graven image. No more crosses. Not doing Christmas. We're not doing Easter. We're not doing any of that. We had stopped doing Halloween. The year I picked up the Bible, that was the last year that we had done Halloween. So that's been a long time. But then all of this other stuff, I'm realizing like, okay, we can't do this. So I'm like, repent of all of that, get rid of all of that nonsense. What are we supposed to do? Right. So I ended up going to the school September, October, November. And I was wearing tzitzits for a portion of that. And one of the girls one day, she saw them and she's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Well, it's kind of like the cross. It's like tzitzits. It's what God says to wear to remember him. It's like the physical reminder of him." And I cringe that I said that, looking back, because I know that was a stumbling block. We're not to wear tzitzits because that was part of the law that was added for transgression, right? The man transgressed keeping the Sabbath. He was breaking the Sabbath in gathering sticks, right? He was doing his work on the Sabbath. And so as a reminder to keep the Sabbath holy, God gave them tzitzits. And so now we don't do that. We don't do the law that was added for transgression, right? Deuteronomy 10. The second table of stones was written the 10 commandments and then put in the Ark of the Covenant. That's what we're to do. And so I learned all of this while I was still working at the school, and I was kind of walking on eggshells. And so I was like trying to teach the kids what I could. I was learning about the royal law and how to love my neighbor as myself, and really like how to rebuke properly. And I was kind of like would have gentle conversations with people where, like, there was one woman who was kind of upset about some people in her family who were sick, and I was like, "Well, why don't you keep the Sabbath and then God can heal you?" And she kind of like brushed it off, and I just dropped it. I didn't know like how to respond properly yet. And then there was in the lunchroom, they would make pizzas and they would put pepperoni on the pizza, and pepperoni is pork, right? We don't eat pork. And so I kind of would like mention, like, I don't think we're supposed to do this. Like, it's kind of like, I'm pretty sure we shouldn't be like feeding the kids pork. It's like God says we're not supposed to eat it. But I didn't really like, I didn't know how to say it. Hi, baby girl. I didn't know how to like really say it properly. And so I just did it the best that I could in the moment. With what I knew at that time, what my several ability was at that time, right? So we get through November. There was a Thanksgiving break. We go back in December, and immediately they start doing Christmas. And I knew the whole time we were off for Thanksgiving break, I knew. I was thinking about it. I was praying about it. I knew we're going to come back. It's going to be Christmas stuff, and I'm going to have to say something, because by now, after all of these months of like studying and learning and like fellowshipping with people and like really coming into covenant, now I knew what I had to do, what I had to say, and I knew I was not going to be able to keep this job. So we went back after Thanksgiving, and it's December, and everybody starts talking about Christmas, and I brought up Jeremiah 10 to the other teacher that was in the classroom. And her response was something to the effect of, "Well, we all worship differently." And I was like, like, this is what the Bible says. Like, we really are not supposed to be doing Christmas. So she ended up going to the principal and telling him. He pulled me into the office, and he was like, he said, "I don't know what kind of works-based salvation you've gotten yourself into, but it's not good." I don't think that's a verbatim quote, but that was the gist of what he said. And I was like, look, like, doesn't it say, like, we can't do Christmas? Like, have you read Jeremiah 10? I can't remember all of the conversation, but basically he was like, you need to think about what you want to do. You can either like drop this stuff and stay, or you're going to have to go. And so I ate my lunch, and I was just praying and like asking for courage to say what needed to be said, so that I could at least like get the truth out, and then I was going to leave. And so He did. He gave me the courage, and I went back into the classroom. I gathered my stuff. I said to the teacher, I said, listen, if you don't keep the 10 commandments and and if you don't keep the 10 commandments and eat clean, you're going to end up in tribulation. So you need to repent. And I'm going to go now. And I got up and left. I had to stop back into the principal's office on my way out. And I said, yep, I'm gonna go. And here's where I started with the miracle story, because I'm a single mom. I can't be without a job, right? It worked during COVID because they were giving us, like, the state was giving us so much money. It was absurd. And so I saved up a whole bunch of it and made it last. Like it was, it was okay for that time. But like, I can't be without a job. Like, I have to work, But now I'm like walking out of this job. And so I was kind of like, but I just knew, like, he had done these miracles for me in the past. So I knew he was going to take care of us, whatever it was. I'm standing on his truth. I'm like committed to him. I'm reading the Bible. I'm nailing my ear to the door. Yeah, I'm here. I'm with you. But I just need you to, can you please just take care of us? Because I've got 2 kids. These kids, like, they eat like it's crazy how much they eat and grow. And I'm like, I know you're going to take care of us, but I'm going to do this. And I'm just trusting that you got me. The principal said to me, he said, we're going to pay you until the end of the year. Not the end of the school year, but this was the beginning of December, right? It's like the first week of December. And they were going to pay me through to the end of December. And I'm pretty sure I had like the most shocked look on my face. And he goes, I think it's the right thing to do. And I was so grateful, and I apologized to him. I was like, I didn't know what I know now when I applied for this job. Like, I wasn't trying to, like, trick you guys into something or taking the job when I shouldn't have been. Like, I really did like this job, and I appreciate the opportunity. I've just learned too much at this point about what the Bible truly says, and I can't continue like working like that. And so it ended up being a good parting, I think. I mean, maybe I am mistaken about that. Maybe he didn't have the same feelings about it that I did, but I thought it ended okay, where, I wasn't trying to mislead them. I really did take that job in good faith to say, like, that was what I thought I should have been doing at the time. But, I think it is what I should have been doing at the time, right? Like, all of those kids now know the 10 commandments, because when they got bored, I would have them write the 10 commandments. Like, I made sure they knew where it was in the scriptures. We read through it together. That teacher, may she repent. I think about them all the time, actually. I pray about that. I pray for them a lot. May they repent. May they remember the 10 commandments in tribulation if they don't repent beforehand. But yeah, it was definitely, only God could work that timing, where as I get what I thought was my dream job, that I learned all of this Bible truth, and I'm like, oh crap. Like, here we go. I got to rebuild all over again. But he gave me that miracle. And there's one, I can't remember where it is, but there's one part in the prophecies where it says your enemies will show you favor. And so here I am, like really causing quite a rift in this school. And they gave me, my salary through the end of the month. So I didn't stress. I didn't have to worry about money. And, I just got myself sorted for January and didn't skip a beat. And praise God, I'm so grateful for all of those miracles that he showed, and um for just like he's taken such good care of us through the years, through my whole life, and really like through these last um like 5.5 or 6 years of like him drawing me back to him, like really, and the amount of grace that he's poured out on me. And this whole walk has been so amazing. And I want to throw into this, it's not part of my testimony per se, but it's like one of the things that I saw at the school, and like really how bad it is in the churches. One of the kids at one point asked me, how come Lord is all capitalized sometimes? And so I told him, I said, there's that's where they removed God's name. That's where it should say Yahovah. And I said, I have a Bible that has the Hebrew name there instead of saying Lord. And so I brought it in for him the next time I was there, and I showed it to him. So it's written in Hebrew, so you would read it from right to left instead of left to right. And so I showed it to him, and he looked at it and he goes, so we would read this from right to left? And I said, yeah, that's God's name, and then this is your Messiah, Yeshua. And he goes, ugh. And the look of disgust on his face was it was heartbreaking, really, because you have here, this is like a 16 or 17-year-old boy who is so what's the right word, like brainwashed, or I don't know if that's the right word either, but like demons are real. Angels and demons are real, and the demons do not like Yahovah. They do not want to see his name, because we are to proclaim his name. There's power in his name. There's power in the name of Yeshua. And so when I saw that, and it really like it hit my heart hard, because like this is just a boy. He doesn't stand a chance. There's so like, this is one of the ways that we know that we're right at the end, because even our children are plagued by these demons who are disgusted by the name of our Creator. And yeah, I just wanted to chuck that in there because it happened at that school, and it, like, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, right? And may that boy be saved in the end, and counted in ignorance, because there's no way that he knows to, that there's no way that reaction would happen if somebody wasn't plagued by demons, right? So anyway, so I left this school, and God took care of us every time. Like, he is here. He is with us. He is going to protect his people and take care of his people. He's always going to make sure that his servant has what his servant needs to keep going, to keep doing the job, right? Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all else will be added unto you, right? And so that's what I do. And I encourage everybody to do that. I just encourage you to take that leap of faith, to trust that he's here, that he's with you, that he's going to protect you and keep your heart on that straight and narrow if you keep praying for him to do that. Yeah, and don't look back. Just keep going forward. Just keep plowing. Just keep walking that good walk, doing those good works, and trust that he's always gonna have your back. So praise Yah. Love you guys.